Money. Hey guys, it's your big dreamer and doer G Dinero coming to you today with another Money Monday. Today, we're going to talk about what is money. But remember, none of this is tax, financial, legal, investment advice. It's your buddy G Dinero helping you increase your financial literacy to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. So let's dig right in. So today we're going to talk about what is money. So many people have so many different misconceptions about what it is. Others are spot on about what it is. So we're going to dig in and kind of unravel this mystery of what exactly money is. Now, money has three main properties. The first is a medium of exchange. The second is it is a unit of account. And the third is it is a store of value. So money also needs to be generally or widely accepted in an economy. You could say, for instance, that you think money is paper bills, but if the society that you're in doesn't put any value on those paper bills and it's not widely accepted, then you could walk around with paper bills all day long and they would not be accepted. So you really wouldn't have any money in that rate. So let's dig into each of these individual properties one by one. So first of all, the medium of exchange. What does that mean? Money allows individuals to buy and sell goods and services without needing to find someone who wants exactly what they have. Now, this solves what's called the double coincidence of wants, or AKA the coincidence of wants. So an example would be you have a fisherman who wants grain, right, to be able to go make bread, but the farmer doesn't want any fish and instead desires beef from another rancher. So if the fisherman needs the grain from the farmer, but the farmer doesn't need any fish from the fisherman, how is that fisherman supposed to trade with that farmer? And instead, that's where money steps in, and it's a medium of exchange. It's an accepted value in between the two parties so that they can exchange goods and services back and forth and kind of have a ledger there, so to speak, of who owes who what for that particular product. It's also a unit of account. So money provides a standardized way or a standard way to measure the value of different items. This makes it easier to compare prices and understand the costs of transactions. Now, money, it's a standard of value that allows us to assign prices and goods to services. It facilitates accounting, going back to that ledger that we were talking about, which makes it possible to track income, expenses, debts, and overall wealth. It enables comparisons between different goods and services and between different periods of time, and it supports financial institutions, enabling them to track assets, liabilities, and overall net worth. Now, the third main property is it's a store of value, right? So money allows individuals to save their earnings and use them later to make purchases. It's basically preserving that time and energy that you're putting into work. You get paid money, and that preserves that time and energy that you put into work to use at a later date to pay for goods and services. It also means that money can be held and used for future transactions without losing its worth. That sentence, we're going to talk about that in detail, but without losing its worth. And while money is a useful store of value, it's not perfect because inflation, that's why I said we're going to talk about that, inflation can erode its purchasing power over time. And this has become especially evident over the last 5 years as money printing or debasement of the currency and inflation have kicked this into overdrive. So we're going to dig in a little bit more in a bit on that. First of all, let's take a look at money over history, right? First of all, we had the barter system, and that goes back to that fisherman, and in this case, it looks like the butcher, and they're trying to go back and forth and do a deal between each other, and the fisherman wanted beef, and the butcher or the rancher wanted some fish, so it kind of worked out perfectly in this situation where you could exchange one good for another. Both parties are happy. They feel like it's a fair exchange. It might have been 2 fish for 1 piece of beef or 2 pieces of beef for 3 fish. But there was that barter system in place for years, right? But then societies and economies grew and became more globalized. And as they did, there was a need for something else. And that's where commodity money came into play. Commodity money could be everything from alcohol and cocoa beans to copper, gold, salt, seashells, silver, tea, tobacco. There's so many things that we didn't even talk about in here. But think about back in the day, they had these things called rye stones, right? This giant stone that would be present on a single island. And people didn't move their stones around. They just knew that was their stone. It was worth however much. And every time somebody would basically go and buy something with their stone, a little mark would be made on it or some kind of ledger would be there in order to say whose that was. Over time, that became things like seashells and wampum, right? Indians used wampum and other merchants used seashells, especially down in some of the African nations. They used a lot of things like that where they would trade those. Feathers, all different types of things would act as money. And something might cost 10 seashells or it might cost 5 beads in order to go and trade for whatever it was you were trading for. Maybe it was a piece of clothing or maybe it was a spear and it cost a certain number of beads or feathers or seashells, right? That's commodity money. Commodity money evolved into things like soybeans are commodity, right? Copper, gold, silver, a lot of the things that you see on the screen here. Well, that evolved into metal coins, and some of the earliest ones were, I think, dating all the way back into the Egyptian days. Then you had some of the Greek and Roman coins along the way there. This last picture here is an example of US dollars, gold dollars. And so that became the unit of exchange, right? It was these metal coins. They became the money, and people could turn around and carry those with them. Became a little bit more portable than carrying bags of seashells or the rye stones that wouldn't move or go anywhere. It was a little bit more durable than some of those things that were being used in the past, right? And it was more scarce than those things that were used in the past. But that's another form of money, was gold coins and metal coins, silver, gold, copper, some of the most common ones. And those were used for centuries, actually millennia, really, if you want to look at it that way. And then came paper money. So paper money, or fiat money, which is a claim. Initially, it was backed by hard currency or by hard money, like things like gold would back it. There was silver-backed currency, and it meant that you could trade in a piece of paper and get gold or silver in return, right? And it was like that, especially here in the United States, all the way up until 1971. Go take a look. There's a website, WTF, excuse the language, but WTF 1971. And that was when the U.S. came off the gold standard once and for all. And once that happened, this paper money became fiat currency. It wasn't backed by anything anymore. It's backed by the good faith of the U.S. government, right? And so it became what's called a Federal Reserve note at that point. And paper money is the most widely accepted form of currency in the world today as we know it. It's also easy. It also has some properties that makes it very easy to overprint. It makes it easy to fake. It makes it easy to inflate over time. And we'll talk about that in a bit here as we go into another slide. And that leads us to the latest form of money, and that's Bitcoin, or digital money. Of course, there's cryptocurrencies out there, but for me, I tend to focus on one, and that is Bitcoin. Why? Because of the scarcity, because of the fact that it's finite, because of the fact that it requires proof of work, and it's basically a storage of energy that's being delivered back into the society. So Bitcoin is digital money. It's scarce. You need massive amounts of computer power in order to generate it. And it continues to go up in value over time instead of going down in value over time. So let's take a look at these advantages. I've kind of been listing them as we go along, but let's take a look at the first one, scarcity, right? In this case, Bitcoin shines above all others. It is the most scarce asset on planet Earth as we know it right now. There is nothing that's more scarce. Gold is a close second by comparison, but we never know how much gold there's going to be in the world. They may find another vein in a certain mining operation. There's talk that there could be gold out on other planets, or there could be gold on asteroids. There's all this crazy talk, right? And it sounds crazy until it happens, when all of a sudden there's another giant discovery and it's 1 or 2% of what's already out there and available in the world. Now all of a sudden, gold has an inflation rate of 1 or 2%, whereas something like Bitcoin is now under 1% after this last halving. Fiat, whether it's digital or in the paper, physical form, there is no scarcity. It can literally be printed at the push of a button, right? So if something could be printed at the push of a button, it can't be scarce. They can just continue to make as much of it as humanly possible. How much energy does that take to push your finger down on a button? None. Compared to things like gold that has to go be mined and dug up out of the earth, and Bitcoin that needs to be mined via these huge computer networks, the largest, most decentralized computer network in the world that is backing all of that currency and can only be produced, we'll say, or released on a schedule of currently 3.125 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. And that's for the next approximately 3 years, when it's cut in half again. And then in another 4 years, it's cut in half again. Okay, so it's that halving cycle that makes it scarce. Durability, it's easy. I mean, Bitcoin, as long as you have your seed phrase memorized, Bitcoin is durable indefinitely for as long as time exists. Same thing with gold. Gold is super durable. It's not like it wears away. That's why it was chosen as money. Not just the scarcity, but the fact that it's nearly impossible. I hear they're almost able to now, but nearly impossible to fake gold, to create it from other alloys, for instance. Fiat and physical, both digital and physical, not very durable when you think about it. I mean, especially paper notes, they can tear, they get dirty, they lose their the print over time, and they get taken out of circulation. So it's not a very durable money. Fungibility, what does that mean? How divisible is it, right? Fungibility and divisibility kind of go along hand in hand. It means, can it be divided? Can it be, does one Bitcoin look like another Bitcoin? Does one piece of gold look like another piece of gold? Does one fiat look like another piece of fiat? And each of those are fungible. If I gave you a $100 bill, for instance, I don't really care if I get back the exact same one with the same serial numbers on it. What I really care about is you give me another $100 bill that spends and acts just like the one that I gave you. If I lent it to you, I want you to give it back to me, and I want to know that they're worth the same amount despite the fact that they have two different serial numbers on them. That's fungibility, and basically in this case, all four are really all hand in hand there. Portability. You can't exactly carry a kilo of gold around with you, but you can carry around a USB key with your seed phrase on it. You could carry around a cold card. You could carry around, I wouldn't advise it, but something with your seed phrase stamped on it. You could memorize your seed phrase. Basically, you can take Bitcoin with you anywhere. You can take it across state lines. You can take it across country lines. It's easy. It's portable. It goes anywhere you want to go. Gold, on the other hand, again, you're not going to like bring a suitcase of gold with you as you travel all over the world. So it's not exactly very portable. Same thing with fiat and physical fiat. If you're talking about hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, that's a giant liability to be walking around with suitcases full of cash. And same thing in the digital world. So not exactly portable. Verifiability. You can easily verify Bitcoin by having a node of your own, by looking in there to see, is it authentic? Is it real? The fact that you can't turn around and spend it twice, that's part of what's built into the Bitcoin code. So that verifiability versus gold, where there's numerous cases of bars that are of some other metal or alloy with gold basically wrapped around the outside. Unless you know what you're looking for, you've got to be highly skilled sometimes to know the difference between pure gold and one that's been cut just a little bit with some other alloys. And I'm sure there's some of you out there that are jewelers or that are very well versed in it, but me, I wouldn't know the difference between fool's gold and real gold, right? Same thing when you're trying to verify digital and physical fiat. it's difficult to know, is it counterfeit? How many of them are out there in the world? You can't go verify even our governments don't know how big the supply of actual money is out there in the world, right? So from a verifiability standpoint, that's an F. Transferability, again, you can transfer there's been stories of transferring billions of dollars of Bitcoin in 10 minutes across the world, anywhere in the world within 10 minutes from one person's Bitcoin wallet to another person's Bitcoin wallet. Gold, not exactly as easily transferable. You might need ships to bring it across the ocean. You might need armored cars to bring it across land. Transferability of digital fiat, super easy. Push of a button, it moves from place to place. That gets a B. Physical fiat gets a D, because if you ever tried to send actual cash somewhere around the world and hope and pray that it gets there, yeah, it's not very good. Divisibility, you can divide Bitcoin. This is a common misconception with Bitcoin as money. People think that it's not divisible. They think they have to buy a Bitcoin. And a Bitcoin right now is $109,000 at the time when I'm recording this. That's not the case, guys. You could buy 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. That's called one Satoshi. And that's 0.000001. I think I got all the zeros in there. There might have been 6 or 7 zeros and a 1 at the end. That's a Satoshi. So each Bitcoin is divided into 100 million pieces. So from a divisibility standpoint, since there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin, and each one could be divided into 100 million pieces, it's like 21 quadrillion Satoshis that'll be available in the world. So highly divisible. Gold, not very much. So you can't just like say, here, let me shave off a bit of gold and pay somebody with a flake of gold, right? So not really divisible at all. Digital fiat, also almost equally as divisible. Physical fiat, a little bit more difficult if you don't have the exact change and the other party doesn't have the change to be able to make change. Privacy, Bitcoin's a C because it is a public ledger. People can see, and if they find out that you own that wallet address, they can track what you're buying and what you're buying using the Bitcoin for and what you're receiving Bitcoin for. They may not know exactly what you're using it for, but they know where it's going and where it's coming from. So because it is a public ledger, gold's a little bit more private. You could have a stash in a safe or buried somewhere and nobody knows about it. Digital fiat, the world knows what's going on. The government is going to use it to track you, basically. They know exactly where your money's going, what you're spending it on. They can lock it down at the drop of a hat if they wanted to. Physical fiat actually is more private than Bitcoin. So that's the common misconception. Isn't it Bitcoin what's used by all criminals? Not necessarily. That's physical fiat, because cash is less easily traceable and trackable unless you're talking about giant quantities. Bitcoin is actually easier to trace in the long run because it leaves a digital trail behind it. Confiscation resistance, Bitcoin tops the list, right? Why does it top the list? Because again, if you keep your wallet address a secret and you keep yourself off of the blockchain on a regular basis, let's say you bought some Bitcoin and stashed it away and just left it there for years and years, nobody's going to know that you have it. They could find out, but it's going to be highly unlikely. Gold, on the other hand, just what was that, 1931, when they turned around and issued 6102, I think it was. I'm blanking on what the number was, but basically it was they went out and they confiscated all the U.S. gold and said it was illegal to possess gold in over certain quantities in the United States. Digital fiat, again, the government can pull it back at any time. They just literally hit a button and all of a sudden, whoop, comes right out of your account. And physical fiat, on the other hand, confiscation, there's been stories of cash being confiscated. So that can happen, especially if it's being used for illicit purposes, as it should be confiscated. It is confiscated. So, but there's also been stories in other countries where that's happened, in places like Turkey or Turkey, however you say it now. And some Libya, I think that happened in, where basically they just lopped a zero off of people's accounts, and banks basically weren't allowing people to withdraw their currency from the country. So it is possible. Now we're going to go into the last four, and you notice they're highlighted, and that's acceptance. Bitcoin's still not readily accepted. It's not being used for that medium of exchange right now, or that unit of account. It's really being used as a store of value more than anything. And as far as acceptance, there's only a handful of places where you could really spend Bitcoin in the world. Gold, you can't walk into a store, like go buy groceries with gold right now. You can't go buy gasoline with gold. That's like virtually impossible. And digital and physical fiat are still the most widely accepted around the world. I would say Bitcoin is probably up to about a C right now. There are credit cards that will automatically convert your Bitcoin into fiat so that you can go pay for things like your groceries and your gasoline. And it immediately pulls from your Bitcoin quote savings account, pulls that out, converts it to cash, and spends as cash on a credit card. Those are starting to become possible right now, so I'd give it a C. Liquidity, very liquid. The Bitcoin market's highly liquid right now. It's open 24/7, 365. Unlike some of the fiat currency markets like the stock market and banks that are only open certain hours, right? They're closed more hours than they're open oftentimes. And gold, from a liquidity standpoint, highly, highly liquid market, tons and tons of flow back and forth everywhere. So those get A's: gold, digital, physical fiat on the liquidity side of things. Volatility, Bitcoin, that's the big one for it. It goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it's still super highly volatile. So if you needed to spend all of your Bitcoin at a specific time, you better hope and pray that it's at an all-time high at the time you do, because the last thing you want to do is have to liquidate your entire Bitcoin holdings when it's at one of its local bottoms. But it's been in this cyclical nature where it tends to go sideways for a couple years, skyrocket for a year, and then drop for a year. And it's kind of been doing that since its inception. Gold, on the other hand, not very volatile. It's been known for how it just basically kind of pumps the brakes. It's just this steady eddy, safe play that people talk about in their portfolio. Fiat and digital fiat and physical fiat, they're like a stable coin, right? They're fixed, they're pegged. It's very non-volatile, very steady. It's just no volatility whatsoever. And then last but not least, censorship resistance. Both physical fiat and Bitcoin, those are ones that it's not like the government's going to be able to come in and say all of a sudden, we're going to take that back from you. Whereas gold has been censored. Things like when people's reserves have been basically put on hold, and there's been times like with Russia, for instance, where they put some of their gold reserves on hold. And digital fiat, on the other hand, from a censorship standpoint, again, they can just push a button and say, we don't like what you're doing. We don't like how you're acting out against the government. We're going to take back all of your fiat currency. So what's the problem? Well, there's zero scarcity, unlimited money printing, and we'll address that one on a future episode. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this today. Again, it was meant to be a primer. It wasn't meant to be, hey, this is the end all be all. What is money? We could talk for hours about it, but I wanted to get you thinking about it, because a lot of the podcasts that I'm making, a lot of these videos that I'm making, they revolve around money, right? How to invest, how to trade stock, options, crypto, all those different things. And at the end of the day, it's money. Money is a placeholder. It's a placeholder for when you need it. It's storing all that digital time and energy that you're putting in. And the last thing you want to do is see that just go away like the wind. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel so you see more videos like this. And drop a comment below. Let me know what you learned today, what you like best, what you'd like to see more of. And remember, this is G Dinero helping you increase your financial literacy to help put you and your family on that path to financial freedom. I look forward to seeing you in one of my courses and or on an individual appointment soon. Take care, and we'll see you next time.